I'm a busy mom who loves to bake, and today I'm teaching you how to make easy homemade puff pastry. Puff pastry from the freezer section is handy, sure, but you know what is actually easy and impressive? Homemade puff pastry. And you can make it ahead of time and freeze it too. I know, it sounds super complicated, but something that I learned from a friend of mine who is a trained pastry chef is that puff pastry actually isn't hard to make at all. It just takes a lot of butter.
Wow. Butter is life.
So before we begin, you're going to want to remember the number 3.
I've just never seen you wink in my whole life, but if you feel like that's natural.
And hang around till the end for an easy recipe that you can save for later. The 3 simple ingredients you need are flour, butter, and water. Yes, that's really it. Step 1, measure your flour into a bowl. For this recipe, we need 3 cups of flour. Step 2, chop up butter and mix with a pastry blender. You need 3 cups of butter. You heard me right, 3 cups. It's a lot of butter. It should be super cold straight from the fridge, and you want to chop it all up into little pieces to make it easier to mix in. A little tip here is that you can also put the butter in the freezer an hour or so ahead of time to get it super cold. I've said it before and I'll say it again, the pastry blender is my favorite kitchen tool that is very little known, and we're gonna use it here now to just get the butter incorporated into the flour. It's a lot of butter. You might even want to use your hands to get it sort of mixed up first, and then we'll just use the pastry blender to break the chunks a little bit smaller. Another trick is to use a cheese grater to get the cold butter into small pieces. Step 3, mix in ice-cold water and bring the dough together. You want ice-cold water, so I usually put ice cubes in my measuring cup and then measure the water out of that. You need to add 3/4 of a cup of water, but I like to add it 3 tablespoons at a time, 9 total. You may need a little more or a little less, so just work with the dough until it all comes together. There really is a lot of moisture in the butter, so be patient. Step 4, roll out and make a tri-fold with your dough. See, I told you 3 was going to show up a lot. Roll out a rectangle. Can you pull my hair out of my face, please? Because my hands are covered in flour. Like, tuck it behind my ear. There we go. And the other side. Thank you. And then fold the dough just like you would a letter into 3 panels. And then
You're gonna mail it to my belly?
That's a terrible joke.
Thank you.
We're going to repeat this rolling and folding a second time right away so that all the edges are neat. Step 5, wrap in plastic wrap and chill in the fridge for 30 minutes to an hour. Whenever I have to put something to rise or let it chill, I usually tell my kids it's taking a nap. So we're gonna let the dough take a nap so that it rests, and then they're not too sad about having to wait. Ooh, came off in one smooth swipe. That doesn't happen every day, folks. This recipe really isn't difficult. It just requires a little patience and forethought. I suggest starting in the morning or even the day before you want to bake. To the fridge. Step 6, roll out the dough and tri-fold a 3rd time. All right, I took a break and did some school with my kids, and now we're ready for the next fold. It might take a minute or 2 for it to warm enough to be workable. As you're rolling it, you're gonna want to get it a little bit thinner than this. I would say this is like, what, 1/2 inch? Would you call it 1/2 inch?
Yeah.
So a little more thin, maybe
A 1/4 inch.
1/4 inch, so that you have room to fold it. All right, so here's another rectangle, and then we're gonna try fold again. All of this folding is creating layers with the butter, and that is what turns this into puff pastry. Wrap it up and stick it back in the fridge for another 30 to 60 minutes. Step 7, repeat step 6, roll and fold for the last 4th time. This extra time is so worth it for all of the flaky deliciousness you're going to enjoy at the end. At this point, you can wrap it up and save it for the next day, or stick it in the freezer for an even later time. Or if you're ready to bake now, let it chill again for 15 minutes if it's already too soft, and then get started. What are you doing?
He's trying to lick that edge.
Sometimes baking with kids is more mess than fun, but we do it. Puff pastry can be used on pie crusts, or as a sweet or savory pastries in all different shapes. Today, I decided to make some cinnamon twist pastries with my kids.
I want to a piece to eat.
as well as a jam and brie appetizer for the grown-ups, which is always a hit for the holidays.
This recipe is super easy and anyone can do it. Plus, it is so satisfying when you see all those fluffy little layers begin to puff up. And you can be proud that you made it yourself with just a few simple ingredients. So have fun baking and enjoy the process. As promised, here's the recipe.
And next week, I'll be sharing my family's favorite quick cinnamon roll recipe. It's perfect for a winter morning treat and really easy to make. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.